Yo, what's up guys? Bajheera here. So this is going to be an update for my Diablo 4 Season 8 Barbarian build. Now, this build is like super scuffed. Let me start off by saying that. I have been having a lot of fun playing action RPGs. I've been having a lot of fun playing Diablo 4 actually. I know people like kind of maybe wrote Diablo 4 off and haven't been checking it out recently. I mean, I haven't played it in a bit, but we've been playing a lot of action RPGs recently. I've been having a lot of fun and decided to hop in, and this season's actually been a good time. I mean, maybe it's because I'm having like the first experience, a lot of the content they've added in and whatever, but I was just an action RPG enjoyer, a bit of a Diablo 4 enjoyer historically, and this continues to be a blast. And what I've been doing in all these action RPGs is kind of just like diving in and taking an idea and making a build work. And let me tell you, this transmog has got me wanting to play something with some two-handed weapon action. Let me see if I can turn my character on. Look at this sword, man. So we've been doing some bleed stuff. I liked Bleedzerker a lot when I first played Diablo, and I felt like, you know what, let's do a little Bleedzerker action. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. One of the funny things is, again, like I said, this build is just kind of weird, but it's working. It's got us into Torment 2 and like kind of handling business in a strange way. So I think I'd like to show it to you guys and give you a look at it. Some weird things are it's getting like really hard carried by the boss power that you get. So the first thing that you want to do if you're deciding to play Diablo 4 Season 8 is find a Shava world boss, kill that thing, and then take this power, because this thing is nuts. You basically sploot out a poison, and this poison does just giga damage. And then I've got the poison being buffed by the fact that it will execute low health mobs. It will just make, then I also have this thing where it just buffs all damage over time effects, but this does include the poison effect, which is kind of crazy. And then I also have this thing where it's just giving me a percentage of fortify or as barrier, which is nice. And I guess we could just walk through the build in general. My ability selections that I've used, right now I'm using Charge, I'm using Leap, I'm using Steel Grasp, and Rupture. So I have 2 brawling skills with mobility, and I have 2 weapon skills. One to gather people, Berserk, make them vulnerable, and then one to stab them and have a big bleed explosion of damage. And then I'm using Lunging Strike as my mobility skill, like to zip around. And I was using Rend for a long time, but Rend isn't really dealing that much damage for me. What's dealing damage for this build right now is the poison, of course, and then actually the rupture explosion. So I'm using Whirlwind to kind of like be able to reposition in between the chain pulls. And it also is doing other things for me that are neat. Like it's applying a small bleed so that, you know, things are still bleeding. And then it's making use of some of my gear, my chest piece in particular, to like reset my cooldowns. So we can talk through the skill tree real quick, just to show you guys what we're cooking with. We are level 121 Paragon, so we can talk about the Paragon like in the very beginning. But just to talk about the pathing, this build is going to be undergoing lots of changes though, but I am having fun playing Diablo, so I wanted to share it with you guys anyway, just because why not. We're just putting like 1 point Lunging Strike to get access to the ability. We're taking the heal part, and then we're taking the little bleed infliction, and then we'll go down here. So again, I actually have ranks of Rend from the ring that I'm wearing, which I think is still cool. I may change it though, but we'll see. Again, this is all over the place. Definitely an update, not a guide so much. Definitely just an update. But let's go in anyway. So I was using Rend, and it's okay. It just makes me fairly stationary. I love the fact that Rend extends the duration of vulnerable enemies. I love that. But we have so many ways of making enemies vulnerable right now, it's not that big of a deal. And since it's not really dealing that much damage for us, I'm kind of just not using it. What I'm using is Whirlwind. I like the fact that Whirlwind, it lets me reposition. It just feels smooth, and I'm not really using it for damage anyway, so I may as well just use this to have it be smooth. But it is giving us a small amount of bleed, so we can still do the damage to bleeding that we like. I have 3 ranks of Warpath randomly from my gear, I think, somewhere. I think I tempered it on there, or we'll find out where it's from. I'm pretty sure it's a temper. But after overpowering, you deal increased damage, which is nice because Rupture always overpowers. So we're getting every time I Rupture, we're getting a damage buff, which is nice. So we're coming down here. We're not taking any shouts for this version of the build. When I was leveling, we definitely took shouts. And we may go back to shouts. Like, this whole thing is insane. What you can do is just take every skill and then you get plus defensive skills on amulet, and then all your skills are buffed, which is wild. And all these are good. So I might think about that later on. I remember doing that with Bleedzerker before. I am grabbing extra health, and I am grabbing damage reduction against elites. We do like enough damage with our poison sploot that we just need to survive sometimes. And we're okay tankiness, but this is helping with that. So now we're coming down here. I had 2 points just randomly left over, so I'm just chucking them in movement speed. We could chuck them in some kind of damage as well. Like we could chuck those points in belligerence, which we are basic attacking. You'll see. But right now I'm just doing movement speed because that just feels fine. We have +2 points to all brawling skills from our ring that we're using, but we're using leap anyway. So leap is going to be one of the ways that we're plopping earthquakes down. It is so funny. So in last epoch we were playing this build where we're like basic attacking and it procced earthquakes underneath enemies, and it's like, oh my gosh, we're doing that again in Diablo now. It's pretty funny. There's like a lot of these earthquake things. I don't know if it's new, but like I found this rune that gives you an earthquake activation. You can do it various ways. Right now I'm doing it off of mobility skills. So leap procs an earthquake. It also is one mobility skill that can then proc an earthquake. Like if I charge, then I get another one. But lunging strike does count as mobility, so you can just proc earthquakes with that. I'll show you in a minute when we talk about gear. But anyway, we're just grabbing the leap that gives me fury. The slow is like, maybe we could do that. It'd be kind of cool, but no, I'll just take the fury. And then I'm doing charge that makes enemies, like, whenever I hit them, it'll reduce the cooldown on charge, which is cool. So you could take the vulnerability one if you wanted to, but I'm doing this right now. And now we're going down this. We load up on this tree. We're going crazy on weapon mastery skills. So I put a bunch of points in Rupture. I want the cooldown reduction on it is the main reason, but we could probably take points out and it would just not be that big of a deal. But it does make it deal more damage too, so that's chill. We're going for the explosion, the bleed explosion enhanced Rupture, and we are doing the the Rupture gives you attack speed, which is pretty sweet. We also have a couple ranks to cut to the bone. Your bleeding effects deal increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Again, this we could take points out of this and move it into here. The reason why is like, yeah, bleed damage is cool, but the main thing is we just need to buff that poison. So it's like you just take all the points out of specific damage like bleed, and then you move it over here into like basic attack buffs or damage, which I might do. I might do that right now as a matter of fact. I'll show you why. But later on, when I actually do real damage, maybe we put points back into that sort of thing. We are using Steel Grasp. I love this ability. I feel like there's like a little bit of jank like after you throw it. Like your character kind of like chills for a second, but you can animation cancel that with a dash. Or what I've been finding is you can animation cancel it with a whirlwind. So that's what I'm doing. And whirlwind does feel smooth just for like movement, right? You reposition with whirlwind and whatever else. So it makes enemies vulnerable, and it gives you berserking, which is cool. It might be kind of nice to have the 2 additional charges, but just a small amount of berserking I think can go a long way. Especially because I think I just breezed through this. We are gaining damage reduction while berserking. We are getting berserking from the 2 brawling skills that we have. And we are also generating more fury. I don't know if I need this one, but I am kind of benefiting from fury gen, so I'll show you what I mean by that. Then we go down to here for all this fortify stuff too. You generate fortify from taking damage. When over 50% max life fortification, you deal 12% increased damage, which is, again, all generic damage increase are increasing the poison sploot damage. Weapon mastery skills fortify you. We are casting these a ton. And then while fortified, you have additional damage reduction, and you heal over time, which is great. I like that. So now in this tree, we have heavy hitter. Mostly, I'm pretty sure this is just from my tempering again. But it does make our earthquakes deal more damage and dust devils deal more damage. And we are kind of using those because like they're in the build, so it's like maybe it's okay. Dust devils and earthquakes are both just being used to kind of increase the damage that we deal with poison and decrease damage that we take. Now invigorating fury is great. It gives you a nice chunk of healing whenever you spend fury. And for some reason, I can't help myself, I am still taking gushing wounds. When causing enemies to bleed, you have a chance to do like crits, and like it does like extra bleed. The bleed explosions pop off everywhere. It just feels really good, but in a lot of ways with what we're doing, I think that unconstrained is probably still better. So I'm gonna do that. But this is such a fun one to use. When we actually deal enough damage to deal real damage with our bleed, Gushing Wounds is probably the play. Right now, we're just kind of getting carried hard by the poison. In terms of Paragon, we are going up through this side of the tree. I think I kind of want to grab this anyway. It's just so free and insane. Life and damage is crazy. But we're grabbing life here first, addressing our tankiness. We are taking some willpower in the zone just so we can get our buff for disembowel, which is giving us bleeding damage, which is like, yeah, bleed is great. But the main thing is killing an enemy that is bleeding has a 10% chance to reduce the cooldown of your non-ultimate active cooldowns by 1 second. That's great for us. We're using a ton of those. We're kind of just pathing over here to grab all this other like willpower and stuff. Plus this is a cool node. Damage to elites is great. Damage in general is great. Coming up here, we are taking the hemorrhage tree. Your bleeding damage is increased by 15% of your vulnerable damage bonus. Again, it's like I'm trying to do bleeding damage, but we're not actually doing bleeding damage. So it's like this could be something better somewhere else, but I'm doing it anyway. We need more strength to grab this. But we're coming down for a glyph slot. The glyph that we're using in this one is just using the Weapon Master glyph. Hitting with Weapon Mastery skills reduce the active cooldowns of other random Weapon Mastery skills by 2 seconds. Another random one. So it's like my chain reduces the cooldown of Rupture. Rupture reduces the cooldown of chain. That's just how it works. But it's cool. So we're grabbing some vuln damage there, and we are buffing these nodes like crazy. So we're buffing our bleeding damage like crazy and our vulnerable damage like crazy. So that's nice. Coming over here, I love the Warbringer thing. Maybe eventually I will do a grand respecking, but I'm like holding on to hope that someday our bleed does damage, and it still does damage with Rupture, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. But every 75 Fury you spend, you gain a bunch of Fortify is awesome. I love Fortify. And we are grabbing some all res up there because it's easy. Max life and max Fury is cool. I maybe should have like turned this thing instead and grabbed the Fury on kill, but whatever, we'll see. And then we are coming over here to grab Exploit, which is a crazy rune. When an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. Super sweet. And then we're buffing that like crazy. And then I'm grabbing the damage and the damage while fortified, and then we're going to go over here. And I don't know what I'm going to put on there next. Depending on how crazy we're trying to go. No, we want Decimator next. Yeah, we want Decimator next. Depending on how crazy we're trying to go and how much I love this Earthquake stuff, we could do Force of Nature at some point. But I think I'm going to do Decimator next, because we are making things vulnerable with a lot of different mechanics. Let me show you my gear a little bit. So, again, build update, not a guide. So this is like, this is some scuffy stuff. We're wearing a lot of uniques and stuff. It's like, just roll with it. So, some of these things are good though, okay? Some of these things are good. We do want this leap creates an earthquake thing. It's called the power of Bolcathos or whatever. So leap creates an earthquake that deals damage or whatever. Who cares about the damage? What we really like is that while standing in earthquakes and for 4 seconds after, you gain 30% increased damage reduction. So the earthquakes that we're generating with leap or just with the lunging strike are going to give us a massive damage reduction buff, which is sweet, because stacking those damage reductions is going to help us stay alive. So we have a Rage of Haragath, which is awesome. So take a look at this bad boy. It also gave us the big damage over time buff, and guess what? Poison is a damage over time, so that's nice. We also have a damage reduction from bleeding enemies. Everything around us should be bleeding pretty good. And we have, you know, that's another thing. I might want to put Berserk Ripping on the build, because things are going to bleed from Whirlwind, but they don't really bleed from everything, and I kind of want them bleeding from everything, so. Anyway, inflicting bleeding on an enemy has up to a 26% chance to reduce the cooldowns of all your skills, which is nice. You know, I love this charge thing, but I feel like we need Berserk Ripping just to get things bleeding better. So let's do that. I don't think everything is going to bleed unless we do Ripping. So we have some Dusty Devil stuff, and I'll show you why. It's like, yeah, we got to put that on there. All right. Sorry, Ancestral Charge. What? Come on, bro. I'm making a video here. The Diablo's like, OP build detected. Shut him down. The glitch in the Matrix. Brother. Look how cool my character looks though, man. Look at that. Oh, no. Please wait a few minutes so you can log out. All right, we're gonna wait a few minutes so we can safely log out. But look how cool this character looks, man. I haven't really ever bought any like MTX in this game, but I had some platinum left over from buying probably like the game in general or the expansion, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks so insane. So we had to try to make a build that uses the two-handed sword. So we're still, whether it does the most damage or not, we're still blade storming with the two-handed sword. We just had to. It just looks so sick. But there's definitely reasons to use the one-handers instead for certain things. All right, let me take a few minutes. I'm gonna do a set of push-ups. Hopefully the game lets me back in, and we will continue picking up with the berserk ripping on gloves. All right, that'll be what we do. That'll be what we do. Okay, push-ups complete. We're back in the game. It was funny because like, did I click actually put ripping on there? Because when I logged back in, it wasn't on there. So I think this is truly the secret. It kicked us off the game. We're too powerful. But anyway. We got ripping on there. Talk about Haragath. Wait, this Haragath, yeah. I mean, talk about that. So I like these Tassets of the Dawning Sky. I don't think we're gonna use them forever, but they are kind of sweet. They give you all stats, movement speed, max resist, which is sweet. Resist all, and then when you take damage from non-physical damage type, which is a lot, you gain extra max resist to that type. I mean, that's really good, man. That's really good. Oh, I think we just breezed over my runes. This is a huge deal in the chess piece, by the way. Here's what I'm talking about. So we have the cast 2 mobility or macabre skills gives you earthquake, right? So all these buffs that we're doing with earthquake, with like the defensive buff and then an offensive buff, we're getting that from basically 2 lunging strikes, leap on its own, a charge and a lunging strike or whatever, right? It's plopping down these earthquakes. They're rumbling, giving us big damage buffs and defensive buffs, which is great. So another piece of gear that is pretty sweet. Well, let's talk about this first. We found a legendary glyph, or rune, by the way. So now casting 5 skills, we become exhausted, which whatever that means. But it also gives us plus skills for plus 3 skills for 10 seconds. So that's kind of insane, right? Whenever I cast 5 skills, it goes. And then I get plus 3 all skills. It's nuts. So that's pretty cool. Yen's Blessing, I like the idea. These give all stats, movement speed, resist all, resource generation, which is great. And casting a skill has a 58% chance to trigger a non-mobility, non-ultimate skill that is currently on cooldown, right? So basically, all of my skills that I'm using can cast either a chain or a rupture, which is kind of cool. So we'll be whirlwinding around and it'll just like shoot chain and grab stuff, which is pretty neat. I'm not sure like they're like best, but that's what I got and they're pretty cool. So this mace is just kind of a rando mace. However, we have it. Okay, you can notice, by the way, talk about my tempering. We put berserking duration on there with a little bit of life. We put these don't even have a temper. Let's go put one on there then. Shoot, dang. We got tempers, boys. So for offensive tempers, I like to chuck surprise, surprise, poison damage on there. So you go to elemental finesse, knight. Temper that bad boy until you get poison. It's a min rolled, but whatever, close enough. And then utility. So here's where things get interesting. I like the enhanced rupture size, but I think berserking duration is probably our best bet. Steel grasp stunning is actually also awesome, but I might put berserking duration on there for now. Also, the barbarian innovation of earthquake size is probably also insane for us. And then you can do Dust Devil size, and it will increase the damage of your Dust Devils if you play a particular little talent for it, or a legendary power, which I'm not doing. And I'm not doing Earthquake. I don't know if I want to do Earthquake size either. I think I'm just going to do Berserking duration, but Earthquake size does seem fun. Let's see if we can try to get Berserking duration. Please? Oh, Whirlwind size would have actually been okay. There we go. That would have been fine too. Just for more AoE, that would have been cool. I also kind of want that thing where Whirlwind pulls things in. That would be nice too. We're kind of just trying to gather them up for Rupture and the poison. But there we go. So we'll put poison damage and berserking duration on that bad boy. For the temper on here, we're doing more poison damage. Heavy hitter is kind of awkward, but I think this one's out of temper, so it is what it is. What we're imprinting on here is the ground stomp creates an earthquake, damaging enemies. So we're not using ground stomp. We don't care about ground stomp. We could be good, but we're not using it. What we care about is while standing in earthquakes and for 4 seconds afterwards, you deal 90% increased damage up to 120% increased damage you put on a two-hander, right? Like that's big. So we're taking less damage and doing more damage when in an earthquake and for 4 seconds after. So that's awesome. So because I'm using Whirlwind, I am using the Dust Devils thing. The reason why is because we want 25% increased damage from all my sources for 3 seconds. And guess what one of those sources of damage is? My poison fart that I sploot on these guys. So we're gonna go fart on enemies and they're gonna take 25% increased damage from my dusters. So we have Dust Devils being generated by Whirlwind, and we have Dust Devils being generated by us generating Rage. So after generating Fury, your next direct damage deals Dust Devils. So I'm gonna see if I like this one. There's some other cool things we could do. Maybe like, since we have a barrier so frequently, I do like the conceded barrier damage buff thingy. That's cool. And we're still using Fields of Crimson. I mean, it's just like, makes your AoE so huge on Rupture. It reduces the cooldown on Rupture. It makes them take more damage from bleeding while in this little Rupture pool. It's pretty cool. Eventually, like, if we, I always say this, if we ever do real bleed damage, then this will be good. By the way, we're also putting purple amethysts in all of our gear for the dot damage. For rings, using Ring of the Ravenous, this one's a really cool idea. Gives you rend and brawling skills, gives you a longer duration of rend, which is like, I mean, it's cool, but like, what am I doing here? You know, it doesn't really deal damage yet, but eventually it could. Damaging enemies with your brawling skills, my charge and leap. Apply 2 stacks of rend, which is sweet. I like that. Then we're also using this Corroded Signet, where your damage over time effects have a 75% chance to erupt, dealing damage of the same types to surrounding enemies. So like bleeds and poisons will erupt. That's pretty cool. And then we have a good old weapon mastery. Skills have additional charge, and they have a chance to stun them. Right, so that's why I'm not using the temper that makes chains stun, because we're using this for additional charges. We have that one synced up with enhanced rupture explosion size, which is cool, and poison damage, right? So that's sweet. Does that pretty much carry us through? Oh, by the way, I want to do axes, I think, not swords. 20% of the direct damage you deal is dealt as bleed. Yeah, but we don't care. Dealing increased bleeding damage is whatever. Let's do this one for now. Let's do the two-handed. Just more damage to bleeding targets is cool. Let's do it. Although I do like some of these other ones too. But anyway, let's do that one. Let's go run a little thingy, shall we? Let's go run a little pit to show you guys what we're cooking with. So I think what we're farming like super comfortably, tier 40. I mean, we could try it. It'd be slow. I'll show you 30. 30 is like chill. 35, the bosses can. Well, yeah, should we do 35? We could do 35. The 35 is not chill. 35 is like, you gotta keep it moving, but that's fine. 35 should be okay. I think we're definitely gonna do Torment 3 today, in terms of getting to 40. Just need more gear and stuff. This is the first rift I've done for the day though, so oh boy. So you leap in, start chaining fools. There's the earthquake on the ground. I do kind of want to reposition with Whirlwind, just keep yoinking people. Kind of bring them into the danger zone, right? Just in the pit. Just yoink all these dudes in here. And I'm pretty much just like holding down right click the whole time to try to just like continue to reposition. And oh my god, what was that? Oh, poison explosions. Okay, yeah, let's not die to that. I am the poisoner, not you. I do need to make sure I'm periodically leaping though. So the poisons shred fools, and then the rupture actually does do okay damage. One of the things I'm not doing enough though is just basic attacking. Basic attacking is gonna get my little dusters going. It's gonna get our earthquakes going, and it's gonna keep me safe. Is that music like really loud? I turned the music on. I haven't listened to the Diablo music. I want to see what it sounded like. But you can kind of zoom around the map and just click when I'm leaping, and you can see that like dudes just get randomly yanked in from my thingo, from the Yen's blessing. Don't kill me. Don't do that. These guys are getting all buffed up. Oh yeah, some more poison exploders. Bro, we gotta get out of this map. We gotta move along, man. I am the poisoner here. I don't want to be getting exploded by poison. It's kind of nice though. It's not like the fastest, I don't think, but it's also kind of chill. Kind of zooming around, chucking down earthquakes. You do get to kind of spam your weapon abilities, which is fun. And you'll see that like Rupture does do some damage, but the real big chunks are definitely coming from the bleed. Protection Shrine, for me, thank you. So, I do want to eventually have some of my damage actually being like done with bleed. But for now, it's kind of like just Rupture is doing its thing, and then the poison owns. We're kind of ripping through. We'll move along. Move along. That music is kind of loud to me. Plop that down a little bit. It's also just kind of atmospheric, the music, huh? But all in all, I mean, I'm doing what I frequently do, which is kind of just play a build and just kind of see where it takes us and go from there. But I don't know if you want some kind of bleed thing. Like, this looks fun. I'm gonna pull enemies into the danger zone. Make yourself some earthquakes. Why's my guy chilling there? Quit doing that. Quit chilling. Gotta keep moving. But I find that the whirlwind in between kind of helps you avoid that animation lock that I was getting with chains. Like if you try to like rupture right out of it, it's like, it's fine, but it feels like it's like a little slow. We got Dusty Devils going here, debuffing everybody. Kind of basic attack for a little bit. To get your earthquakes popping off. And just zooming around. And while we're just doing this a little rifty rift, I feel like I can speak generally about Diablo 4. I've played Diablo 4 and have enjoyed it. I haven't played it for a little bit. So this is me kind of coming back to it and kind of seeing what's up with a lot of the end game grind. But I've been really enjoying it. I'm an action RPG enjoyer, a bit of a Diablo enjoyer as well. But it's been pretty fun. I have not kind of gotten into the end game loop of kind of this doing. It seems to me like you kind of just do whatever you want. You can do Hell Tides, you can do the little Undercity runs. Just do something that gets you access to the boss little resources that you need to run the bosses. And you do that, run them bosses, try to get yourself some cool uniques and just good loot. And then prog. But I really like the build crafting in these games, and although you don't have the most like extensive talent tree compared to maybe like Last Epoch or Path of Exile, what you do have is all these like legendary powers. Now you have like the boss powers, but usually with the new leagues you have like some kind of boss or some kind of like special power to play around with, and that continues to be the case in this one. I got roasted. I think he got executed is what it was for my boss power. Again, the boss powers, to reiterate, are that little poison sploot that's going off. My poison sploot has a chance to execute dudes, and I'm just doing more damage over time thanks to Undariel's power. And then we also have the little fortify is generating me a little barrier, and that's one of the reasons why my health stays pretty full all the time. We have a decent amount of barrier generation from kind of spamming our weapon mastery skills, or sorry, fortify generation, which is the same thing as, you know, barrier generation and fortify from spamming weapon mastery skills. So we're pretty healthy. Yeah, so we're just running around and chaining fools, plopping earthquakes everywhere, yanking them in on top of the earthquake ideally. Dude, don't die to poison. And then just AoEing that pile. Let's see. So the Guardians definitely can kill me depending on what it is. Frosty guy. So against bosses, I'm trying to get my earthquake down. Trying to get my basic attack thing going just so we don't take as much damage. Keeping Berserk rolling. This guy so far is kind of cooperating. I'm gonna have to get away from that. More earthquakes. More dusters. Again, kind of just repositioning with whirlwind in between. Gotta focus up though. Combat at this point is kind of engaging, at least. We have to actually pay attention to what we're doing, and we also didn't have a potion on. What do we want to upgrade? More exploit? No, let's get disembowel. It's so funny. We have all these investments in like bleed and stuff, where we're not actually doing bleed damage. But so we should be able to do Torment 3 unlock at tier 40. That one was pretty smooth. It definitely is like there's room for this build to get smoother. 100%. Oh wait, we don't want to do this yet. What was I thinking we were gonna do? Oh yeah, I want to go grab this. Let's do that. I do want a path to my next little thingy, but I think I want this instead. We want all the agility, but we can definitely grab some more life and damage to the big mobs. Yeah, get a little tankier. There we go. That's looking nice. That's looking nice. And the build, despite being a little scuffy, is also looking nice. So if you guys want to know what I'm up to, and you want to give it a try, this is kind of where I'm at. Again, I like making these videos to give you maybe some ideas, like, oh yeah, that looks like kind of like a fun interaction. I will give that a try, but I'm definitely not like a Diablo pro. I've super been out of the loop on Diablo. But I am enjoying it a lot. And again, one of my favorite things to do with these kind of games is just share videos with you guys of where my character is along the way. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I think that some of the things that I'm thinking about doing in the future that I would like to do are move, like, if I could do Rend stuff, I would like that. I would like to do Rend here, and I have been doing that too, and move out of the Unconstrained and go back into Gushing Wounds and actually invest in like bleed damage and things like that, because Rend does do some damage on little baby mobs. It's just on the really strong ones. It just doesn't really seem to do much, and in that case, it's just like not really worth. We'll just kill stuff with our Earthquake, with our Poison Explosion, and with Rupture, and that will be good enough. But in the meanwhile, Whirlwind is, again, I'm just using it to kind of like give me an AoE bleed application. I'm using it to give me an AoE Rage of Harrogath cooldown reset, and I'm really using it just because it's really smooth, and you can press the button to kind of animation cancel out of things while moving. Whereas with Rend, the gameplay is you're gripping things in, whoosh, 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 just like slashing in a big pile, and that's fine until like the mobs hit you, and then like if you're getting smashed, in like this is your pile, you're the one doing damage, but the mobs like, crush you back, or they put like an AoE underneath you. It's just kind of nice to not be locked in an animation. Plus, you get the added benefit of the little dust devils popping around, which gives you 25% increased damage on them, and so that means like they're gonna take a bunch more damage from your poison, which is your main poison, especially single target. But anyway, this build's pretty fun. I'm having a blast. Diablo's actually going great on stream, so thank you guys for tuning in. That's been really, really fun. We've had some great days of Diablo. Looking forward to another one today. We're gonna post this video for you guys, and I will be seeing you guys a little bit later today on stream. If you want to see the continued progression of this build, we have our options are open to us. We can lean into Bleed if we wanted to lean into Bleed. We can lean into Earthquake if we want to lean into Earthquake. We can continue to kind of like build into Whirlwind and have like a really smooth McGroove, moving, blasting kind of character. I see a lot of Whirlwind out there, but we'll see. We have options. I'm excited to see where this build takes us, and we'll do that later today on stream. But if you guys enjoy the Diablo content, make sure you show it some love. And if Diablo looks like fun to you, got the game already, hop into Season 8. It's been a blast so far. Why not, man? Why not? We'll keep it going around here. See you guys then. Peace.